is running.
Emma, it's now running.
That's lovely. Thank you. Thank you, Jack. Good morning. This meeting is a meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee, which was adjourned on the 30th of July 2020 at approximately 11:15 to enable members to retire to deliberate the application for a premises licence for Rosie's General Store, Bridge Street, Beers Hamlet. During the period of adjournment, parties were advised that they should not contact members of the subcommittee or submit additional information. I can confirm there's been no attempt to provide additional information, but I do request members to confirm the following. Members, please can you confirm whether you've had contact with any of the parties during the period of adjournment and whether there has been any changes to your declarations of interest? Could I please start with Councillor Swear?
Thank you, Emma. Yes, I can confirm all of that. I've had no challenges and no communications.
Thank you. Councillor Ball?
Yes, I have had no contact with anyone and no challenge or no communications. Thank you.
And Councillor Walters?
Thank you, Emma. No, I've had no contact with anybody at all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Chairman, I can advise that all the parties were invited to attend this second part of the hearing. The applicants, Mr. Rose and Mrs. Jones, are in attendance, and there has been no further contact with the objectors since the initial hearing invitations were sent. So the objectors were not present for the first part of this hearing on 3rd July, nor they appear to be present for the second part, which is the announcement of your decision. Therefore, Chairman, we are able to proceed in the absence of the objectors still. For this part of the hearing, only members of the Licence Subcommittee will speak to announce their decision. Once members have announced their decision, they may not engage in discussions regarding their decision. Any questions by the parties to the hearing should be directed to the legal advisor, and I will do my best to answer those questions now. Alternatively, I will contact you outside the scope of the meeting. If a party has a question, please indicate and wait for the legal advisor to invite you to speak. Members, as I've just referred, you may proceed to announce your decision in the absence of the objectors. Parties to the hearing, you are politely requested not to interrupt the announcement of their decision. I now hand over to Peter Swear, Chairman of this Licensing Subcommittee, to announce the decision of this subcommittee together with their reasons for decision. Chairman, I now hand over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. Good morning, everybody. I will now announce the decision. The Licensing Subcommittee has read the materials presented to it and has considered all the evidence and submissions. In considering the provision of Section 18 of the Licensing Act 2003, the statutory guidance issued under Section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003 and Braintree District Council's licensing policy, the Licensing Subcommittee has decided to grant a premise licence for the above premise as set out for the application as follows. In Section 15, the supply of alcohol, it is from Monday through to Wednesday from 0600 to 2000 hours, Thursday through to Friday from 0600 to 2100 hours, Saturday 0800 to 2100 hours, and Sunday 0900 to 1300 hours off the premises. The non-standard timing, permitted hours extended to 23 hours for the duration of the 3-day Bures Village Music Festival held annually in July. This corresponds with Section 17, the opening times as well, from Monday through to Wednesday from 0600 to 2000, Thursday and Friday from 0600 to 2100, Saturday 0800 to 21, and Sunday 09 to 13. The permitted hours extended to 23 hours again for the 3-day Bures Music Festival held annually in July. The premise licence is subject to the conditions offered by the applicant in order to promote the 4 licensing objectives as set out in Section 18 of their application, as amended below, and the mandatory conditions attached to all premises licenses. No additional conditions are considered to be unnecessary. The amendment. Licensing Objective B, the prevention of crime and disorder. At the hearing, the applicant agreed that the 3 times CCTV interior and 2 times CCTV exterior cameras to be installed at the premises, recording at 25 frames per second should have 31-day image storage capacity, not 14-day image storage capacity as stated in section 18. The decision of the licensing subcommittee in respect of this application for a premises license takes effect on the 4th of August 2020. The reasons for the decision. The licensing subcommittee is required to consider the application for the premise license as submitted in accordance with section 18 of the Licensing Act 2003. Paragraphs 942 and 943 of the statutory guidance issued under section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003 state that each applicant for a premise license must be considered by a licensing authority on a case-by-case basis, and that representation submitted by responsible authorities, other persons, and the applicant should be taken into account. In addition, paragraph 944 of the guidance states that the determination of whether an action or step is appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives requires an assessment of what action or step would be suitable to achieve that end. The licensing authority should consider wider issues such as other conditions already in place to mitigate potential negative impacts on the promotion and licensing objectives and the track record of the business. The decision of a licensing authority should be evidence-based, justified as being appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives and proportionate to what is intended to be achieved. The imposition of standard conditions should be avoided and may be unlawful where it cannot be shown that they are appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives in an individual case. In this case, having regard to the application and the representations made prior to and during the hearing, the licensing subcommittee considers that it is proportionate and necessary for the promotion of the licensing objectives to impose any further conditions. In considering this application for a premise license, the licensing subcommittee has had regard to the application and the submissions made at the prior to the hearings by the applicant and the representations made by the objectors. The objectors have been invited to take part in this, but they had chosen not to. The representation did not object to the proposed general store, but to the sale of alcohol on the basis that this could increase drinking by youths and damage in the village, particularly as the premises were located across the road from the village common. It was also considered that requests for late opening hours could add to any problems which might arise. The objectors had stated that there were 2 public houses locally, which they considered were adequate for the alcohol needs of the area. Reference has been made to the potential for antisocial behaviour arising from the sale of alcohol and to activity which falls outside the area of the premise license application. It is noted that the applicants live in a property that adjoins the premises and that they, together with a designated premises supervisor, know the area well and many of the people who live there. In determining this application, the licensing subcommittee cannot consider activities or behaviours which are not in the control of the applicant. No evidence has been presented to justify refusal of this application or to require the imposition of conditions on the grant of the premise license. Furthermore, the licensing subcommittee is mindful that no representations have been submitted by the responsible authorities, in particular Essex Police. The objector's concern about the proposed opening hours of the premises has been noted. However, paragraph 1015 of the guidance states that shops, stores and supermarkets should normally be free to provide sales of alcohol for consumption off the premises at any time when the retail outlet is open for shopping, unless there are good reasons based on the licensing objectives for restricting those hours. It is also noted that people such as commuters using local train services, tradespeople, and visitors to the village may wish to use the premises, either in the early or late hours of the day. The licensing subcommittee is satisfied from the evidence presented that there is no good reason to restrict the hours for the sale of alcohol. The question of the need for this application has been raised and reference has been made to the existence of other suitable premises in the area. In accordance with paragraph 1318 of the guidance, the licensing subcommittee cannot take this into consideration when determining the application. Braintree District Council does not have a cumulative impact policy, and therefore each application for premise license is required to be considered on its own merits. It is acknowledged also that having alternative premises from which to purchase alcohol provides benefits, particularly during the current COVID-19 pandemic, when some people may choose to remain socially distanced and not visit a public house. The licensing subcommittee considers that the steps set out in section 18 of the application, which the applicant proposes to take to promote the 4 licensing objectives and the explanations given by them during the hearing, are robust to ensure that the objectives will not be undermined and that the concern of those who have made representations will be addressed. These steps will become conditions of the license. That's the end of the decision. There is a right of appeal. If you will council's decisions, you must do so in writing within 21 days of being notified of the council's decision to the Magistrates' Court. A fee must be paid to the Magistrates' Court, and your application should be sent to the following address: Chelmsford Magistrates' Court, Court Administration Centre, PO Box 1074, Chelmsford, Essex, CM1 9PZ. For further guidance on appeals of the Magistrates' Court, please contact
We're not, excuse me.
Apologies,
at any
Chairman.
stage.
Sorry, Chairman, to interrupt you. We
Sorry.
have lost you slightly on your transmission. If I may just intervene at this point, the chairman had announced the decision of the licensing committee and was just giving guidance as to how an interested party could appeal the decision should they wish to do so. Unfortunately, the chairman broke up during the giving of the address. However, Chairman, the address is set out in the decision notice, which would be set out to all parties who are able to appeal the decision.
Yeah.
Chairman, if I may, at any stage following the grant of a premises licence, any individual who considers that the premises has not been managed in accordance with the licence objective may seek to review the premises licence. That is a separate process, and if anybody is interested in obtaining advice on reviews, we would signpost those initially to the .gov.uk website, where the statutory guidance can be obtained, which deals with reviews and appeals. Alternatively, colleagues in the licensing department can deal with any initial inquiries. So, Chairman, on your behalf, you have announced the decision on behalf of the licensing subcommittee. Because your decision is subject to is subject to appeal provisions, I would ask that you do not discuss your decision with any party following this decision. So if you are approached by any member of the community, not just the objector and the applicants, you should not discuss your decision. If the applicant does have any queries regarding the premises licence, then we would request that those inquiries are directed to the council's licensing officers. They can answer those inquiries for you. Chairman, if I may, you have announced your decision, so therefore this part of the licensing hearing procedure is now complete. Chairman, we have nothing further to continue with other than to close the meeting. However, on your behalf, could I thank Mr. Rose and Mrs. Jones attending the licensing hearing on the 3rd of July and again this morning. It's unfortunate the objectors weren't with us, however they were invited to be with us and they have declined that opportunity. All parties to the proceedings will receive a written decision notice so they can see the reasons and the licence being granted. Although the objectors have not been with us during this process, they still have a right to appeal because that's the provision within the legislation. They do not have to be in attendance. They have a right of appeal by virtue that they have made an objection to this matter. Chairman, on behalf of yourself and the colleagues, I'd like to thank Mr. Rose and Ms. Jones being with us this morning. There's nothing further to add. So on your behalf, Chairman, please may I close this hearing at 10:43. Chairman, because you are subject to appeal, rather than take parties out separately, I would prefer to terminate this meeting at one point, which means all parties will simultaneously leave the meeting. So members, unless there's anything you particularly would like me to clarify with the applicant or whether the applicant's got a particular question for me, I'd like to close this meeting.
Thank you, Emma.
Thank you.
Just like to say thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thank you. Thank you very much, members. I'm now going to terminate this meeting. Complete, can the broadcasting officer confirm that the broadcast is now ceased?